There's the infamous Cook County Jail, located at 26th in California. This is one of the oldest, largest, most corrupt, most dangerous uh, holding jails in the country, right up there with LA County and Rikers Island. Some of the Chicago outfit guys have spent the night here, as well as other notorious criminals. Now, the Cook County Jail has had several class action lawsuits filed against it for charges like the brutal beatings by the COs, the poor quality of food, inmates being forced to sleep on cell floors due to overcrowding. At some points, there was 3 people to one cell, the rodent infestation, and the rats and mice biting inmates while they sleep, the violation of privacy during massive strip searches, and the failure to provide adequate med care and dispensing meds. Now, other charges against the Cook County Jail on these massive class action lawsuits were invasive and painful mandatory tests for STD testing for all males. They referred to it as sending the inmates to the dick doctor, where they would stick a prong up their penis, causing a lot of pain and discomfort. Also, unnecessary long waiting time. After the inmates posted bond, they had to wait up to 8 hours to get released. Now, probably one of the biggest problems at the Cook County Jail are the COs. Some of these COs are even worse than the inmates. They're notorious for beating and even killing inmates. Like in this video here, they're showing a CO stomping an inmate while other inmates laugh and look on. These COs also have their own individual gangs in and outside the jail, and they're also responsible for smuggling most of the contraband in. Now, the biggest problem at the Cook County Jail and probably other jails as well, like LA County, Rikers Jail, on, is a lot of the guards are smuggling the contraband in, from drugs to cell phones to weapons to pornography. I mean, anything you can get your hands on. They're either being extorted by the inmates or they're doing it just to be pure greedy. Now, the Cook County Jail's main course is their bologna sandwiches. Look how disgusting that piece of meat is. And I'm embarrassed to say, I got in a little trouble on a domestic case with one of my girls, and when they served this to me, I threw the meat in the corner. 2-3 homies dove for it, started fighting over it, and I nibbled on the bread like a freaking bird. Here's a photo of your average cell at the Cook County Jail. Because it's one of the oldest jails, you could see the old concrete cinder block walls. Looks like there's a lot of mildew on them. This jail was originally designed to hold 10,000 inmates. Now there's a little over 13,000 inmates. Overcrowding is a major problem. They have 3 inmates to one cell, one guy on the top, one guy on the bottom, and one unlucky bastard sleeps on the floor. Now, for the last dozen years or so, the Cook County Jail has had the second most suicides in the entire country, second to the notorious Rikers Island. Some of these suicides, though, weren't actual suicides. They were actually murders staged by the guards and other gang leaders in the jail. Now, probably the most famous, most notorious inmate ever to spend a night at the Cook County Jail is legendary outfit boss Al Scarface Capone. Big Al spent many nights at the Cook County Jail, pretty much controlled all the guards and most of the gang leaders at the prison. Nobody ever fucked with Al until he was eventually sent away to federal prison. Now, probably one of the oldest inmates is Frank Nitti, going back to the Al Capone days, the old 42 gang. Nitti was actually the boss of the outfit for a short while. And he was under a tremendous amount of pressure. And obviously, he did not want to go back to jail. And allegedly, he committed suicide on the railroad tracks in North Riverside. Now here's Tony Accardo, Joe Batters, going back to the Al Capone days. He was actually a bodyguard and one of Capone's favorite gunners. This guy was probably the most powerful, wealthy, successful, low-key mob bosses in the history of La Cosa Nostra. All the New York guys in Philly, Detroit, had nothing but mad respect for Tony Accardo. And even he spent one night in the Cook County Jail. Now, boss of the Chicago outfit, Sam Giancana. He was another infamous inmate at the Cook County Jail. And being boss of the Chicago outfit, he had a lot of rank, not only with the guards and the other inmates. This is where he met some of the black gang leaders and learned about the numbers game, which he eventually took over when he was released. Here's another old inmate at the Cook County Jail, alleged hitman Harry Alleman, member of the Wild Bunch crew. I went to his trial. It was a state trial at the county building, and he was charged with murdering union official Bill Logan. I'll never forget his dark, piercing eyes and how bad he looked, how much he aged being locked up for so many years. I also remember seeing his son, daughter, and wife supporting him at trial. Now, here's an old friend of mine, Bobby P. He was an inmate at the Cook County Jail, and they had to put him in protective custody because some of his serious charges were him and his crew were robbing stash houses from the local gangs. So he was target number one. One day, one hearing I went to, I saw on the left side of his face was all puffed up like a pumpkin head. They must have got him coming or going to court. Now, I went to Frankie Caruso's trial. Here's a picture of him walking into court surrounded by security. As we all know, he was convicted for him and his friends for beating up Leonard Clark. And when he went to the county, his father, mob boss Frank Toots Sr., put commissary money on all the inmates' accounts. They smuggled ground beef so the inmates could eat good. And through Caruso's Sr.'s connection, he made sure Frankie Jr. definitely had protection while he was in there. Now, here's Larry Hoover, who's still locked up today. He was a notorious inmate at the Chicago Cook County Jail. He had total control of the entire jail, had probably the most power, the most influence. He was the leader of one of the largest gangs in the country, Black Gangster Disciples. They had over 30,000 soldiers on the street. The government alleged they ran a $100 million a year drug operation. They made more money than U.S. Steel. Hoover was running the gang from his prison cell. Now, another high-ranking gang leader of the El Rukns was Jeff Fort. He spent a lot of time at the Cook County Jail. He actually ran the jail. He controlled all the guards. Most of the inmates reported to him. And he had prostitutes and drugs and other contraband smuggled daily into the prison via guards and his family and friends during visits. Now, probably the worst inmate ever in the Cook County Jail, the worst of the worst, is this psychopath, Richard Speck. He killed 8 nurses, and somehow, act of God, the 9th nurse survived. The guards that watched him while he was in the county were terrified of Richard Speck. Now, here's convicted killer James Degorski. He was one of the men, along with Juan Luna, who killed all those people at the Brown's Chicken Massacre. They put the owner, his wife, and the employees into a freezer, and for some stupid reason, they killed them all. His girlfriend came forward years later, testified against him in court, and actually put him away. But while he was locked up in the county, the guards violated him, beat his ass, put him into a coma. He eventually sued the county for millions and won. Now, I really don't want to call this guy famous, but this guy, as we know, was an actor from that TV series. Freaking idiot. He tried to pull a fast one on the city of Chicago. He had no idea who or what he's up against, bro. But anyways, he ended up getting a taste of the Cook County jail. And he's so lucky for him that he was put in protective custody. You or I would have been sent to General Pop. Now, the corruption at the Cook County Criminal Building and the Cook County Jail, from the warden of the jail to the judges and some of the lawyers at the criminal building. For $10,000, if you had a connection through the outfit, say through the First Ward, Alderman Rhodey, Pat Marcy, or some of the outfit guys, you could beat a murder case. Several of these judges were on the take big time. Now, adjacent to the jail is the Crook County Criminal Courts building. This is where all your state trials are. Normally, I go to the Dirksen Federal, which is downtown Chicago for federal trials. I went to a few state cases. Real nasty place to go. There's long lines, nowhere to park. You can't bring your cell phones in. It's kind of hard to see, kind of hard to hear. I don't recommend ever going here. But in the basement is where they keep all the evidence. And for years, a lot of evidence has went missing. Now, to show you how corrupt the Cook County Jail, Cook County Court building was, there was guns and drugs, right, in the evidence room. And before certain trials, when the prosecution went to retrieve the gun, all of a sudden the gun's missing. The evidence is missing. No evidence, no gun, no trial. These guns were being resold. They were taken out of the evidence room, being resold on the street for money. Now, to no surprise, the county jail has had numerous jail escapes. And one of my favorites was this little Mexican hid in the laundry cart that was on wheels, and two of his homemates, other inmates, easily wheeled him out until the truck that had the laundry linen on it, truck drove away, he got out. In 2 or 3 other incidents, inmates used other names to get out. Here's a funny story. One time I was actually on a sales call in the basement of the Cook County Criminal Court building, and I couldn't find the chief engineer down there, the guy I had a meeting with. So I eventually knocked on this one door. There's like 8 to 9 maintenance engineers, plumbers, electricians, all sitting around doing absolutely nothing, watching the Jerry Springer show, smoking cigarettes, doing crossword puzzles, eating pretzels, laughing their ass off. I hope everybody's having a good weekend. I used to say back in the day, it was a sin to sit in on a Saturday night downtown Chicago. If you like my little YouTube stories, please hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends. I want to give a shout out to my new guy, the Big Kahuna. He treated me to my favorite restaurant last night, La Scarola. Then we went to Richard's Bar, where we were surrounded by all these beautiful women.